the deliberations. You've heard all the evidence. You've heard the closing arguments, all of that. You go into the room for the first time together as a group. Did you take a vote right away to see where you stand?
No. I didn't take a vote.
What was your first vote?
My first vote was second-degree murder.
And many people are wanting to know, how did you go from, in 9 hours, from feeling he was guilty of second-degree murder to not guilty?
It was hard. A lot of us have wanted to find something bad, something that we could connect to the law, because all 6 of us, well, let's not speak for all 6 of us, but for myself, he's guilty. Because the evidence shows he's guilty.
He's guilty of?
Killing Trayvon Martin. But we couldn't prove that intentionally he killed him. And that's the way that the law was read to me.
Tell us more about the emotion during those 9 hours, from the initial vote of murder, second degree, to not guilty. What was going on in your mind, your heart?
I was the juror that was going to give him the hung jury. Oh, I was. I fought to the end.
Did you feel a little, for lack of a better word, bullied in the deliberations?
I don't know if I was bullied. I trust God that I wasn't bullied, but
do you feel that your voice was heard in that?
My voice was heard. I was the loudest. Yeah, that's for sure.
You're a mother, as you said.
Yes.
You have children that were Trayvon's
I have
age.
plenty of children.
Yeah, but 8 of them. And what would your reaction have been? Your son going to the store, getting candy, iced tea, going home, altercation happens, and your son is killed.
I feel that I was forcibly included in Trayvon Martin's death. I carry him on my back. I'm hurting as much as Trayvon Martin's mom is. Because there's no way that any mother should feel that pain.
And you said earlier that you are the juror that could have made it a hung jury.
Oh, yes.
Do you have regrets that you didn't?
Kind of. I want Trayvon's mom to know that I'm hurting. And if she thought that nobody cared about her son, I could speak for myself. I do care. I couldn't do anything about it. And I felt like I let a lot of people down. And I'm thinking to myself, did I go the right way? Did I go the wrong way? I know I went the right way because by the law and the way it was followed is the way I went. But if I would have used my heart, I probably would have went 100.
Wanted to come forward.
Yes.
You haven't asked for money. You haven't asked for a book deal. You haven't asked for anything other than a forum to be able to tell your story.
Yeah. I don't need money. I think time is healing, but Trayvon Martin will always be in my heart.
Some people have said George Zimmerman got away with murder. How do you respond to those people who say that?
George Zimmerman, George Zimmerman got away with murder. But you can't get away from God. And at the end of the day, he's going to have a lot of questions and answers he has to deal with. The law couldn't prove it. We just have to believe in the Lord that if he has to pay, he will pay.
But you feel in your heart of hearts that you and the jury approached it and came with a decision, and you stand by that decision to this day?
I stand by the decision because of the law.
And finally, for you, Maddie, what would you like to say to Trayvon's parents?
I would like to apologize because I feel like I let them down. We just couldn't prove anything. And I wish them the best and that God blesses them through all this and peace.
And that is Maddie's hope, peace for the Martin family, for everyone in this country. She was not going to say anything until Juror B29 spoke out 2 days after the verdict. And you may recall that 4 other jurors signed a statement distancing themselves from that juror's comments. Maddie also felt it didn't accurately reflect her feelings. But one thing Maddie did agree with the other juror on, she said race was not discussed in the deliberations. It never came up in their discussion. But the one thing, George, she came back to again and again and again, she said the law, the law, the law. And if you remember President Obama's first statement after the verdict, we are a nation of laws.
And we have to respect that law. But boy, she really did want to say that that first juror did not speak for everyone. They've all reacted so strongly to that. I want to bring in Dan Abrams, our chief legal affairs anchor right now. And she also, Dan, seems to strike right at the heart of the dilemma that so many outside the courtroom also felt this struggle between moral guilt and legal guilt.
Yeah, and I think Robin was really definitely able to elicit that from her, that she's saying on the one hand, if she had decided this based on emotion, we talked about this again and again as we were preparing for a verdict here, saying the fear of the defense is that maybe these jurors will base this decision on emotion, on a sort of broader sense of right and wrong, as opposed to following the letter of the law. And it sounds like that's the exact debate that Maddie had in her head, which was on the one hand she felt that there was moral culpability on the part of George Zimmerman. But she did say, she came back to this more than once in your interview, saying she still feels she did the right thing as a legal matter, that she effectively had no choice.
She also said she was not aware of all the attention that this case was getting, and she gets home and people are talking to her, because remember they were sequestered for 3 weeks, and she had only recently moved to Florida. She wasn't there when Trayvon was killed, and she said, we, the public, were able to read, we're able to see blogs and all these things to form our opinion, and they only have the evidence that is presented to them in the court.
We're able to see all of the arguments they're having outside of the presence of the juror. So I think that Maddie came out of this bubble, as did all the jurors, right? They're intentionally sequestered. What does that mean? It means that they are prevented from seeing anything that is going on about this case apart from what they're seeing inside that courtroom. They come out of this bubble and suddenly they say, oh my goodness, look at all these other things that we didn't hear, and look at all the attention, etc. And look, you have to wonder how someone like her goes back and friends and family say to her, some of them I'm certain said, you know, come on, how could you come to this verdict? And I think that in a way this was her way of explaining the thought process, which I thought was very interesting about how she went about coming to this
Very
verdict.
helpful to hear that. Thank you, Dan.
Helpful to all of us to hear what went on inside that room. Okay, Robin, thanks. We're returning to new details now.